Virginia Beach, Virginia, a all-American city known to most people here on the eastern seaboard as a great family fun vacation area. Close to the historical triangle, just a few miles up the road, you have Williamsburg, Jamestown, Yorktown, that link back to the roots of the founding of our country and the first colonists to land here on these very shores that I'm standing on. So I'm here to tell you a story about something a little darker. It's about the Witch of Pungo. It goes back to colonization. It goes back to the times when people just, sometimes when things went wrong, they didn't know what to blame it on, so they blamed it on evil and witchcraft. So to start this story, we need to go back to where it began. We're gonna head south, just a few miles out of the resort area into an area known as Pungo. We're gonna jump on Noella May, we're gonna scoot down the road, and I'm gonna tell you the story of the Witch of Pungo. Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sean, this is UCM Pigs Motovlogs, and today I'm out here to tell you about Grace Sherwood, also known as the Witch of Pungo. Before we get started, let me remind you to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always on my channel, if you don't feel like typing words, just leave me an emoji. Let me know you're here. We have to start this story out here in the Pungo area of Virginia Beach. Very rural area, as you can see, a lot of farmland. This is an area of Virginia Beach that is south of the resort area, heading towards North Carolina, Back Bay. We're talking about early days of Virginia. Virginia was in its infancy. We're talking 1600s, right after colonization, Virginia being the first colony, and a lot of people were coming ashore here in Virginia and starting their lives. So Grace was born around 1660 to a carpenter. Grace White was her name, the White family, and she was born, it was said, out here in the Pungo area of Virginia Beach. Now, Grace grew up on a farm, working the land, daughter of a carpenter, and just carried on her life as a normal young woman, I would guess. Now, as she got older, she met a man, James Sherwood, and they later married and had 3 boys. Now, they inherited some family land from her father when he passed, so they had a substantial piece of land out here in the Pungo area, off a road that's known as North Muddy Creek Road, and that's where we're heading. Grace and her husband farmed the land with their boys. Well, around 1701, I think it was, her husband passed away. Grace was known in the community as a healer. She grazed herbs and stuff. There wasn't a lot of doctors around, so she would help people out. She was also a midwife, and she would help people out in the community. So when her husband passed away, a lot of people in the community wanted her to get a suitor. Now, before he passed, there were starting to be some accusations of witchcraft. If something was odd, something was off, and they could not explain it, they would quickly blame it on evil or witchcraft. So there were several accusations made against Grace on witchcraft, you know, livestock dying, crops not doing well, and Grace was blamed. Now, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, this area back then was known as Princess Anne County. Matter of fact, we're getting ready to cross Princess Anne Road right here. And every time one of these accusations came about, she had to go before the court and defend herself. We're 12, 13, 14, 15 miles from you know, the populated part of Virginia Beach, which back then was the populated part of Princess Anne County, where the courthouse and everything was. You know, on a motorcycle, it's 30, 40 minutes, depending on traffic, going to and from there. Could you imagine in a horse and carriage? That was a day trip. That was a lot of time, which meant money and work that was not getting done on the farm. Every time she was acquitted, there was not enough evidence of witchcraft, and she would go on about her business. But people did not like Grace because, like I said, she would not take another suitor on. There are no photos or drawings of Grace, as a lot of the women did not like her. She was described as a beautiful woman with long brown hair and would often wear men's clothes. And this would get the attention of the local men, and they did not like it. So the final accusation was Grace was accused of bewitching a woman and causing her to have a miscarriage. Well, this got the attention of a higher court up towards Williamsburg. She's been back and forth through the court system. She was fed up. The court system was fed up with it. So the higher court ordered a trial by water. Now, if you're not familiar with trial by water, it's also known as a witch ducking. Now, this is the only recorded trial by water in the colony of Virginia. And there were about 19 people, I believe I was able to find, that were incarcerated for witchcraft and just had regular trials. You know, they looked for markings of a witch and they were found to be a witch. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the witch ducking. Right now we're heading down North Muddy Creek Road, and we're going to go to a place that I found just doing my research. I found a YouTube video of some people that actually found the farm. So we're heading down Muddy Creek Road. It's just a pin drop where these people found the remnants of the farm. So let's get down here and we'll talk some more. That was posted back there, so I'm going to turn around. There's a campground that we can get kind of close to the location. So where it was wanting me to turn was actually a driveway, and I don't want to go down somebody's driveway, but it's back up in there. All right, y'all, so I am here in Back Bay. This is the Back Bay over here, and like I said, you know, that road looked posted to me, and I really don't want to ride back up in there, you know, just not knowing the people and not asking permission. And really, there's really nothing there to see. So if you look here over my shoulder, back off that way, just across the water, that little peninsula that sticks out, there's a stand of trees about right there. Right over in that area is where the original farm would have been. Now, they owned several hundred acres, which would have meant they probably owned a lot of this land. Now, the house stood until 1993, and I'll put a picture in here of the house. It stood until about 1993, when vandals burned it down and just left the chimneys. And then years later, they started to crumble, and somebody went in and tore those down. But there is some brick rubble and stuff like that, but I don't want to go in there without permission. That's just not who I am. So this is the area where Grace grew up, and then where her and her family farmed for many years, and it's quite a good distance from the populated area of Virginia Beach. But we're going to get back on the Wellamay, and we're going to ride over there, and I'm going to show you where this witch ducking took place. And this is getting ready to turn up here on North Witchduck Road. Now, I'm sure this area looked a lot different over 300 years ago during early colonization when it was Princess Anne County. But we're kind of retracing the route, or the possible route, that Grace would have gone to get to where her trial took place, and that's why we have this road here, North Witchduck Road. So we're turning right here. We're going to scoot down North Witchduck Road to Witchduck Point, which overlooks the Lynn Haven River, which is the site of the witch-ducking. The end of Witchduck Road, and it's all houses. Let's see if we can get us a better view of the Lynnhaven River. All right, y'all, so we are here at the Ferry Plantation House in Virginia Beach in the Witchduck community. We were just over there on that side of the water. That's where Witchduck Road ends at the Lynnhaven River. So we're right across from it. The saying is that this is where the spectators gathered. They gathered here at the Ferry Plantation House. This house was rebuilt in 1830. It's got a lot of history here on this site. It dates all the way back to the 1600s. Ferries were used to go up and down the rivers here between different plantations. So this was one of the ferry houses. So the saying is that Grace was buried here on the grounds of the Ferry Plantation House. Says she was placed under a tree which still stands. Now the only tree that I see that might still be here 300 years later is this old magnolia. There's an old witch's pot sitting over there, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. No marking, no nothing, but that's the lure that she was placed there, and she still haunts the grounds here at the Ferry Plantation House to this day. I kind of find that odd. If you were persecuted like that, why would you want to be placed to rest here where it all happened? But hey, that's what they say. The records are kind of vague, so who knows? There's no known grave of Grace Sherwood. There's several different accounts of where she might be laid. Like I said, one's here. The other one is when she died. Well, I don't want to spoil the story for you guys, so let's continue on and talk about the witchducking, and we'll talk a little bit more about her death. So you can imagine, you know, big yard here of the Ferry Plantation House with about 60 people gathered to observe this witchducking taking place out here in the Lynnhaven River. Just imagine all these houses not here and these trees where you probably had a pretty good view of the river. Could walk right down to the banks. Now, I'm not going to go down and stand in these people's backyard, but it looks like I can stand over here to the side. So we're going to walk down here, get a little better view of the river, and we'll talk about the witchducking. So I'm standing here on the bank of the Lynnhaven River in the approximate location of where the witchducking took place. Now, witchducking, trial by water, what did it consist of? Basically, the accused was stripped naked, searched for anything that they could use to free themselves.
So then they were crossbody bound, and what that meant was their thumb, their right thumb, was lashed to their left big toe. Their left thumb lashed to their right big toe. Placed in burlap, rowed out just over a man's height depth, and tossed over. The legend was that because water was pure, it would cast out evil spirits. So meaning a witch would float. If you were pure, you would sink, but it was sure death if you did, but would allow you to be buried in hallowed ground. Now, Grace knew this, and everything I've read says she agreed to it. Now, I'm not sure how much choice she had, but it doesn't seem like she put up much fight. So that may tell you she may have knew something, because here's what happened on that day. On July 10th, she was sentenced to the water by trial. All those things happened, or trial by water, stripped naked, searched, bound, and paddled out here into the Lynnhaven River. She was tossed into the water, and she did not immediately sink. So one of the justices on the boat tied a 13-pound Bible around her neck, which took her to the bottom. A few moments later, Grace had freed herself and swam to the surface, therefore being rejected by the water, proving she was a witch. So she was brought ashore, searched for markings of a witch, which warts, moles, things like that, stuff you see in modern pictures of witches, moles and stuff. They could be anywhere on their body. And those were known as the devil's teats, where the devil would suckle the blood of the witch. They said they found markings of a witch. So they immediately incarcerated Grace, and she served 7 years of her life in prison. But going back to the burial site, like I said, some people think she was buried here on the site of the Ferry Plantation House. Again, I find that odd. Some stories go is when she was released from prison and sent home, when she died, her body was placed at the mantle, the fireplace, of her house, and it immediately disappeared. The other was that she was just laid to rest on a plot out in Pungo near her family home, and that's where she was laid to rest. I'm assuming next to her husband, I don't know, but several different stories. There's no known marker for Grace Sherwood in any cemetery. Now, one other thing I want to point out, I pointed out this nice neighborhood. There have been reports in this neighborhood on a clear night. People have seen the figure of a young woman with long, wet hair wandering the banks of the Lynnhaven River. Some people say it's a sign of the injustice that was served to her. Who knows? All right, y'all, so I'm on the corner of North Witchduck Road and Independence Boulevard in Virginia Beach, and I'm here because this is where the statue of Grace Sherwood, the Witch of Pungo, was placed. Now, this statue was placed in 2007 when the governor at the time, Tim Kaine, pardoned Grace and cleared her name. Now, why is this significant? Because Grace was incarcerated for 7 years, not far from this location. That's why they picked location. The jail was in this general location. And after she got released, she tried for 20 years to clear her name and was unsuccessful. So a group of people got together, and in 2006, cleared her name. The statue was put up. Grace lived on to the ripe age of 80 and died on her farm. There's no further record of her. So like I mentioned about where she was buried, who knows? But we have this statue down here at the Episcopal Church. They were nice enough to put a placard because supposedly that was her home parish. So Grace Sherwood, the Witch of Pungo. What brought this all about, if you guys are curious, a couple weeks ago, Back Bay Brewery here in Virginia Beach, they put out a beer every October called the Witch of Pungo. I saw a can and I started Googling, and it took me on this witch hunt. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really enjoyed researching this. I enjoyed getting out and riding today, riding out to Pungo and Saturday, and riding over here to Virginia Beach on the Wella May. You guys do me a favor. If you've got any cool stories like this around your area where you grew up maybe, or where you live now, drop a comment. Let me know. Just put what it's called. I like to research stuff like that. I'll Google it and read about it. I find stuff interesting, especially historical stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll talk to you next week. And until we talk again, you guys be careful. You guys be safe. Always keep your shiny side up. And we'll talk to you later.